Hi!
Hi!
And welcome to Wrong Way. And this is sort of a second part of how to write EUC. Now, Kate has been writing intensely for the past like 9-10 days, and we'll show you the progress and all the tips and tricks we learned on the way to improve your first week, your first 100-200 kilometers on a electric unicycle. So,
Let me tell you more about this.
Wrong way. Okay, so here we have a list of things we've learned, some tips, some tricks, how to improve your EUC writing. And as you can see, we have the Tesla here. In the first video you could see that Kate was trying a lot of things on the MSX and the Sherman, but the Tesla wasn't really her thing back then, was it?
No, not really. I had the feeling it's like I didn't feel stable and I didn't know where I was going, so I thought like, nah, the Tesla is not for me.
But as it turned out, after trying a bit on the MSX and on the Veteran, the Tesla turned out to be really a nice choice because it's a nimble potato.
Yes.
It's a way lighter EUC, and because it has a thinner, narrower tire, it's not so sensitive for imperfections on the road. So whilst a MSX will sort of steer you in one or the other direction, also like a Nikola and a Kingsong 16X, the Tesla just sort of goes where you want it. The downside of that is that it doesn't have a nice small turning radius, like for example the MSX. But all in all, for feeling the EUC, for controlling the wobble, for harder braking, harder accelerating, it will be easier for you to learn on the Tesla V2, as we found out.
So I had the feeling that on the Tesla, because it's such a lighter wheel, I could control it through that fact even more.
So some of the tips and tricks are really related to what you do on the EUC, but some of them are just really connected to the EUC itself. So throughout these 10 days we made a bit of a progress. For example, first we started going down curbs, and going down curbs is really not that hard, but you need to just commit to it and believe that the unicycle will not like go forwards or backwards, it will just stay flat, and you just need to commit to it and go down a curb.
Because also you should learn how to go up on curbs, because if you're around in the city you won't only go down, you will also go up. And mostly what you have to do is slow down a bit in the beginning to keep your balance, grab the wheel very tightly, that you can kind of lift it up a bit up to the front, but most what the wheel will do, it will do it for you, so you don't have to worry as much. Of course, try with smaller curbs in the beginning to see how it feels, and then you can go later onto bigger curbs with pulling the wheel a bit up.
The next thing is that helped you out, I think, a bit, is to start with your 1 foot hovering over the ground. Because even if you learn starting on EUC, you then need to adjust your foot, you need to find a balance, and sometimes you do it a lot. Also related to starting is stopping naturally. So first we've learned that you start on the EUC with your foot like parallel to one another, and the EUC is exactly in the middle. If you brake lightly, it's easy to put your foot next to the EUC and stop, but if you brake more suddenly and more intensely, then it's better to have your foot actually behind the unicycle and roll the EUC in front of you. This will allow for a better stopping maneuver and more stability when stopping.
Also for starting, I noticed the great tip you gave me, that having your foot pretty much next to the foot plate and not behind it will help you a lot during starting, because it's easier to put your foot on the foot plate. I had the trouble in the beginning when I was stopping. My foot was usually behind the foot plate, and then I had more trouble starting again.
Alright, so the next tip we have is speed bumps, and here it's pretty interesting because going over speed bumps, you will think that you will just bounce up and down all the time. But essentially all you need to do is just stay leveled, basically. So your feet and the EUC goes up and down, and your upper body just stays the same.
Yes, like the pelvis will stay in a horizontal line to the ground without considering the speed bump.
Yeah.
And then you just like pull your legs in and push them back down. Also when it's going down a bit, then I prepare before that I go a bit lower before the curb appears, and then I can extend my legs and pull them back in, so I don't feel it as much.
The next thing that might help you a lot is actually trying to go really slow. And all in all, the subject also of perfectionizing or getting better at the skill of EUC riding is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. So if you just ride on a straight road all the time and you don't do much, you will not learn as fast as, for example, you go on a paved road on a sidewalk with lots of people and you will need to just ride slowly. Obviously, don't put others in danger. Maybe try it first in a enclosed area. But going slow and just feeling the unicycle, how it works, if you just don't have that much speed, will help you to get more comfortable on the EUC.
You should definitely be able to go as slow as a normal pedestrian walking. So in case they don't see you or they don't move, you can always stay in a safe distance behind them.
The next tip is for turning. And obviously for turning, you need to just look one way to turn. But the next thing that helps is actually moving your hands on your whole upper body to turn in one direction. So if you turn right, then you do this sort of movement.
Yes.
This is sort of automatic. But
Yeah.
I also told you one more tip, which was to brake sort of with your heel, to turn with your heel. So the move is essentially that you put most of the weight on your heel so that you start braking and turning at the same time. This will make the rotation just easier.
Just imagine that your opposite shoulder wants to go in the direction where you want to go. This helped me a lot also during like ice skating and rollerblading, and it also helps me now on the EUC.
Nice. Now, if you go on a not perfect road surface, you will need to also know a couple of things. Mostly it's number one, commitment. You need to just pull through and not bail. On most situations, I would say 99% of the situations, you can go through on the EUC, and the EUC is strong enough, stable enough, and well built enough to handle the road surfaces. But the thing you need to know is that grabbing the wheel tightly will help you with stability at high speed, at low speed, and going through bumps and cracks in the road, and of course cobblestone.
When I go over cobblestone, I try to grab, as you said, the wheel as tightly as possible with my calves, but the rest of my knees and my pelvis, I try to stay pretty loose, but straight up. So when there are like any bumps, my body can adjust to it, but I will grab the wheel still tightly.
Nice. Next thing is going off-road, and we have still to film that. So going off-road on an EUC seems difficult, but it's not really. Like, it's just a different feeling, so to speak, and it will definitely enhance your abilities on the street as well. On some sort of loose, I mean, not really that loose gravel, but I don't know, dirt path which has like a harder surface on the top will enhance your EUC abilities. What you need to do there is just to be maybe a bit more loose when going off-road. It will be definitely more straining, but I think also more rewarding. Definitely avoid super sharp turns and super hard acceleration, but at this point probably you wouldn't do this anyways, so going off-road will be a nice training for you.
Yes, and watch out that you don't try this like during rain or like straight after rain, because it can get very slippery. Yeah,
mud is the biggest enemy of EUCs, but on dirt paths mostly. If you have a wet road, like on asphalt, on a brick road, on pavement, you are really safe. Like, you can't really slip unless you do extremely crazy stuff like Miechu. But on a muddy road where it's just like a dirt path, that is probably the only way, the only... Oh, nice lighting.
We got lighting.
Probably this is the only situation where you'll really need to watch out, go slow and avoid really sudden movements. The next thing you will want to learn is braking more rapidly, because this will come in really useful in day-to-day situations. So imagine just set up a line somewhere on a parking lot or in a park where you want to stop. Go a bit faster and try to stop within a distance, so we get a feel for the EUC and start braking at the necessary point and hard enough.
And you will see how much travel time it will take you to actually stop and put your foot down, so that you go close to the end of a street, you know when you should stop immediately to not get overrun by a car.
In order to stop more intensely, you have to just sit a bit more to the back and avoid putting your hands in the front of the EUC for balance. Or to the side. It's best to put them behind you or in the same level or close to you to have better balance and more leverage on the wheel and more weight in the rear of the wheel to brake harder. Wheels are really, really powerful, and braking will not overpower the wheel, definitely not at first when you start riding EUC.
So one more thing, if you want to go faster at some point, obviously, try to accelerate and then stay at the higher speed for a bit of time, because if you try to brake immediately, you will get a strong wobble, which is difficult to control. So accelerate, stay at that speed, and then slowly decrease it again.
All right. Now we have something about stands.
Now we have something about stands, because I didn't write any comments.
Okay.
So what's for me very important in the beginning, maybe later on this will shift a bit when you're like more comfortable in different situations, but try to have your both feet very parallel and in the middle of the foot plates, because if you have one foot much further in the front or in the back, you will accelerate unevenly. And also, this is maybe not the biggest problem in accelerating, but I feel more unstable on high speed, and also especially while braking, I brake more on one side and then I turn into the side I brake more intensely.
Yeah, so there's like different techniques to ride EUC, but at first I would advise you to have your feet parallel to one another. Maybe just a small shift is totally fine. I usually now also ride with a small shift. My left foot is in the front, sometimes my right foot. It sort of shifts a bit, but if your foot doesn't cover the full EUC foot plate, have a little of your heel sticking out in the rear and more of your toe sticking out in the front. So it should be like, I know, 75% of your toe sticking out in the front, 25% of your heel sticking out in the rear. And also, different EUCs have different foot plates. If the EUCs are more V-shaped, then your legs will automatically go inwards of the unicycle and hold the unicycle tightly. If your EUC foot plates are flat, then you will actually need to hold on to the wheel more tightly physically, like actively doing it, rather than just having it naturally when the EUC foot plates are V-shaped. Naturally, V-shaped foot plates are a bit more straining over a longer period of time, and flat foot plates are a bit more comfy. So for example, on a V10, foot plates very flat, on a Tesla, angled. And the last tip is obviously try riding with other EUC riders. Go on group rides, but on group rides be careful of your distance to other riders. And if you ride with 2 to 3 people, just observe what they do, try to mirror what they're doing, if they're accelerating, if they're braking. That's just a natural process for better learning and improving your EUC riding skill.
Yes, through that you can just learn what style of riding fits to you. If you're more like a bit more loose, if you'd like to grab the EUC a bit more tight, you can like figure that out through watching other people. And if you don't have a group ride, just watch videos.
Yeah. So I guess these were the tips we had for improving your EUC skill from a beginner level to like intermediate or medium. And if you would like to see a video like that on extreme EUC riding, then feel free to like the video and comment below, just if you would like to see that. But that is the end of the video. If you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.